Welcome back to FIFA 19, the journey so far.
Yeah.
It was Women's World Cup final day. The Canadian bully still tried to exact a petty excuse for mind games onto Kim to try and put her off. Which of course were all for nothing, as the USA secured yet another World Cup to their trophy room. The biggest and best day of Kim Hunter's young life. Kim decided to be the better person and offered a genuine handshake to her rival, not succumbing to the same petty behaviour. After that, it was finally time to celebrate. The USA lifted the trophy in front of a delighted and energetic attendance in Paris. By the way, this music's the Final Fantasy IX
war map theme, yes.
And then it was time for Kim to move to a place of her own and to take on a new journey. But now, it's time.
Also, yeah, I see what you did there, considering the track is called A Place of My Own.
That actually isn't why I chose the track.
Well, maybe you wrote it after that. I don't know.
No, I just chose it because it's a nice sounding track and it represents a nice calm before the storm, I feel.
Oh man. So are we really getting the alien invasion then?
I love that bit at the start. Newly promoted and we get to the Champions League final. It's like a dream or something.
Also, here's Ringo.
It's almost like this is almost completely impossible.
Here's the Ringo. No, you're not speaking to me at the Williams footy, but still wanted to wish you luck. You piece of garbage.
You deserve to be the...
Wow.
You have
Why
no
is
right
no one
to
reported
ride
him?
Daddy's coattails like
Why
that.
is he still away? He's got free when he could be on social media. I don't understand this.
Hey, Danny. You want to tell the reporters something? How about you tell them about that scumbag who pretty much bankrupted you?
Stadio Metropolitano.
Mamma mia. What is this music?
It sounds like it's in game.
Hans Zimmer is really getting quirky.
Alex, you never played for Cardiff. What are you talking about? His old club.
According to the story, he did. Swansea never existed.
Can't really wish him luck, can I?
Williams? Top boy, one of my best mates. We talk all the time. But this is the Champions League final. For those 90 minutes, he's just another player I gotta beat.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Well, yeah, I understand what he's coming from, though.
Williams.
By the way, this cutscene goes on a while.
No autographs today.
Sure.
Really busy.
How you been, bruv?
I've been good. I made it to the Champions League final. You might have noticed if you answered your phone once in a while.
What's that guy doing there?
It's not like I could just come over for a game, though, is it?
No, suppose not.
Maybe an apology? Oh.
Could do now, though.
Now? I don't know, I'm really busy, Hunter. I mean, I've got a final to play.
Leave me alone, I'm busy.
Things to do. Yes, I'll play, yeah. I can thrash you like old times.
Oh, come off it. You know you can't hang with the Hunter. I'll park this way.
Ooh.
Yep. Yeah. Let's go home and play some FIFA.
Why not?
By the way, where is the SDRDO
Past a second.
Metropolitano? Because Alex, yes, it's in Spain. So.
Oh my god, Alex is playing as himself in the game. The hell?
Jova, it's like Captain America, the first Avengers, where they made the first comic and it's the one that was done out of universe. I can understand the whole process.
Plus, you can create your own player.
Oh yeah, how is Jim?
It's fine.
He got sucked into another wormhole.
I can't remember the last time we did this.
Danny, I know I've been a rubbish mate.
Wasn't that technically more, just your agent who hung up on Danny anyway and you didn't know?
Never get out.
Kinda.
Step out the door, there's people sticking phones in your face. My face everywhere. People knowing who I am, what I do. Yeah, a few years ago, it's all I dreamed about, but I never thought about what I'd lose.
Like clockwork.
Yeah, this feels artificial. Like, Alex never gave off inkling that he legit had forgotten about his friends and family.
I don't know. I don't know, Danny.
Wondering who that lanky guy is in the cheap suit.
You were on radio. No one got to see your face.
Pretty weird. This final.
Yep. Not exactly how I imagined it.
Telling me.
I need this, mate.
What? And I don't.
So you're asking Alex to throw the match for you. Danny, what the hell?
No, he
Champions League
isn't.
final. I want it as much as the next man. As much
That's
as
how it
you.
comes off.
Do you?
Trust me. I get it.
No, you don't.
I've been through
You
hell.
have no idea what I've been through.
Oh my god.
I've been
Why do I
mobbed
get the
left,
feeling
right, and
Dwibs
centre
is going to
and
choose...
Hazza, calm the fuck down.
Why do I get the feeling Dwibs is going
We
to
were
pick
playing
Danny to
together 2 years
win?
ago.
But I mean, that's the thing. The story seems to suggest that it would be the right thing to let Danny win because, well, it sounds like he's been through a lot more, whereas Alex hasn't.
Not you, not Terry, not Ringo, not anyone is gonna get in my way of winning that Champions League. Alright?
Jesus.
My name is on that trophy.
That Kubrick stare, what the fuck?
This is great, actually.
Like,
Again, all of a sudden, the story, the mood becomes like super deep.
like, geez, is
Well, who
Danny...
knows if they'll make another Champions League final.
Again, just...
Oh, this is where the aliens show up, right? Like,
No.
damn it! Come on, yay!
Sorry,
Cross over
no
Dead
aliens.
Space now.
But yeah, I'm totally calling it now. Dwibs is
Add
going...
another cutscene. Seriously, when did this become Metal Gear?
To be fair,
Honestly, the more
Dwibs, this
story,
is the conclusion
better.
of... Yeah, this is also the conclusion of the journey. They might as well make it a bit more meaty on that front.
I mean, okay, I will notice something though. There seems to be a lot more story for these two's finale than
Kim.
Kim's.
Kim seemed to be just tacked on.
Yeah. But yeah, again...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that earlier on as well. It just feels like they couldn't really quite figure out exactly what to do.
But yeah...
More like figure out how to actually entangle. Oh, here's Jim.
Finally! It's
And
good to
Kim.
see he's alive.
I'm too old for this shit.
He's on the old pitch he used to be. But yeah, again, I'm totally calling it now. Dwibs is going to choose Danny to win out of the two.
You know, there was a time when the women's game drew as big a crowds as the men's did after the First World War. Yeah.
So is
that's
this
my
before or
time, I
after
want you to know.
Kim's finale or whatever?
Before.
Another lily paw.
Also, that face, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Huge face.
Your great-grandfather, William, he saw her play in front of 50,000 that got
Wow, it really is the family business.
Season, and she was even younger than you are.
40, yeah. Well, hey, at least my goal tally isn't unrealistic now in hindsight.
Enjoyed the tour?
Why are you still here?
Granddad,
Just to suffer.
you made it.
Well, you don't
Not
think I
Alex,
missed
B.
this, do you?
Mm-hmm.
His mother?
No, B.
The manager.
Been a while since I was up in the gods.
Oh, it's you.
Let me guess, this is the
And
cutscene where...
completely dressed in black.
This is the cutscene where both of their sets of family members show up.
Mr. Cardiff, instead of
what?
taking Mum out for their anniversary.
What?
She didn't speak to him for a week.
Wow, that is something some people will do.
No,
Go
well,
to a
like,
cup
it's
final
just
rather
good
than
idea.
celebrate their anniversary.
Dad did love his Millwall.
Oh, okay, that's
No.
no, fuck your dad.
You know, it would have been nice if, you know, the two of them enjoyed the sport, and that would have been a nice anniversary thing, but no.
But why Millwall though?
Eh.
I guess
You
we
know,
missed
that
out on a few
because
things
you
I
don't
wanted
like the
to say.
team, you know?
Every time I looked at Dad, All I saw looking back was disappointment.
Of course,
Danny,
even his daddy didn't love
you'll
him.
never amount
Yes,
to
yes,
anything.
game, we get it. Feel sorry for Danny. Like,
Not compared
it's
to the
suddenly
great
piling
Connor
all on
Williams.
at the last minute here, which is
Self-made
again why I'm
man.
totally guessing Dwibs
What
is
do you
gonna pick
reckon?
Danny.
I guess Dad never told you how he got Williams' construction empire. Gramps gave it to him.
Dun dun dun.
So it turns out his dad
£50
didn't
million
mean
company
crap.
handed to him on a silver platter. You're welcome. Dad never had to graft. Never took a knock. He never really built anything.
That's nice and all, but my issue is that we haven't seen Danny interact with his dad or anything. This is...
I don't think we haven't seen even what he looks like.
Yeah, this is the first
Well, at
he's
least
mentioned it.
Terry's helped nice, being nice here, helping
No,
Danny
yeah, I understand.
to
Yeah.
cope with the pressures of being in a final.
That's
Here's
nice.
my question, though. Where is Michael?
Yes,
Yeah,
go to the toilet.
true. Michael just dropped off the plot after the whole thing with Ringo.
It's not like Danny fired him or something.
So that's it?
Again, my issue with this is like, well, the plot
Nice
feels
dog,
emotionally
eating his health,
manipulating because at this
Go on, let's get
rate,
some grub.
yeah, you're kind of pushed towards supporting Danny more because his life has been so tough and everything, and Alex doesn't understand the suffering he's had to go through. Like,
Well, one more cutscene.
Sure.
okay. I mean, yeah, honestly, Dwibs, I get that you may be. Oh god, that hair.
It really looks like we're going to a funeral.
Okay, Dwibs, I get that you may be a bit weirded out by the abundance of cutscenes, but honestly, I think I
Today's
get
great
why.
team.
It's kind of the story making up for, well, the lack of story over the course of things.
You're looking around this room. I don't want to see fear.
Jeez, again, I'm wondering, is Danny gonna go on
What
a
have we
murderous
got to be scared
psychopathic
of?
rage if he loses?
Yeah, I feel like we're about to go on some kind
Like a
of...
mass shooting or something.
I-
And this being the 80s turns into a crossover with
You didn't
Army of
get
Two,
here
maybe? I don't
because of
know.
luck.
Again,
got
I'm
here
guessing
because
Dwibs
you
is
You
gonna...
did get there because of
earned
luck.
it.
Swansea got relegated, you got promoted, somehow got to take their place.
Again, I'm guessing.
Okay,
I'm guessing,
showdown.
I'm guessing that Dwibs is gonna pick Danny, which is a shame because I kind of would like to see what would have happened if
Great
Danny had
game
lost.
happens when great players give everything they have for each other instead of for themselves. Die!
Now I know how you're feeling right now. Been there myself. 88 FA Cup final. Us, little old Wimbledon against Liverpool. Giants.
You all know the team sheet. You all know your jobs.
Jobs, what are you going to throw the game?
Ala Madrid!
This is history.
Right here!
Freedom! Oh, no, we're not doing that. Okay.
So, guys, decision time.
You're gonna pick Danny.
Just like we did in the friendly. We could choose either Danny or Alex.
You're
This
going to
time it
pick
ain't just
Danny.
no friendly.
It's gonna be
it's
third
Danny.
choice. He picks Kim and she storms in the field or something.
Hi, Danny.
Oh, here we go.
You're gonna pick Danny, aren't you? Well, gee, I must be a psychic, or I just know Dwibs very well.
yeah,
see,
there's
Joe,
been some bias throughout this LP.
You see, Jova, I came to two conclusions. I love an underdog story. And at this point, Alex has achieved all his dreams. He's no longer the underdog. Danny, on the other hand, has had to deal with all sorts of shit to get to this point in his personal life.
I'll admit,
Plus, he had to work hard to earn the respect of his peers in the locker room.
I will. Oh.
Really?
Yes.
Wait,
Well,
what team is this?
Pokemon.
Pokemon Red, Blue, and Silver,
Okay.
specifically Victory Road. But you're not Victory Road, still the league, you know.
Okay. I will offer a counter-argument though, Dwibs. I'd argue that it would kind of be more interesting to see how Danny would react if he lost. And I don't just mean because he would go crazy, but think about it. Danny has just learned that his father was just given his victory here. How interesting would it be to see if Danny can still make it this far. But, you know, even when he loses, he realizes that he's strong enough now to not have it all matter on this one thing. He can come back later, stronger than ever. But he still retains a good person for it. I mean, don't get me...
my response.
What?
I sympathize with Danny at this point more than Alex.
Wow, like I said, the story pretty much edges you into that. And like I mentioned, I don't really feel...
Well, I was convinced.
Well, like I said, though, the actual story suggests that, oh, Alex was in the wrong all along. I don't buy it. Like I said, it feels forced more than anything, especially since at most we get, like, 2 scenes that suggest that he's a jerk, and even still, that's mainly more so attributed to the entourage more than anything, and it goes against the choices that you've been making for Alex anyway, because the choices you've been making with Alex suggest that he would still value his family and friends, but the cutscenes go against it here and there. Like,
Those are the ones you could choose.
Well, that's the thing, though. It feels like your choices don't matter in that regard, and Okay, it's not as bad as Last of Us 2, but it has that similar issue of Last of Us 2 in manipulating you to feeling sorry for a certain party, even though when you really think about it, doesn't make much sense.
At least Kim doesn't kill Daniel.
Also, at least I've enjoyed this.
Oh, yes. Look. Like I said, nowhere near as bad as Last of Us 2, but it does have a frightening reminder when it comes to how manipulating it is. Like, I get it. Danny's had all this suffering and whatnot, but it really acts like Alex has been the bad guy even when he really hasn't. And not only that, like I said, they literally added in scenes in this last chapter just to add on to how, oh, Danny's life has been hell and everything. Mind you, this is despite the fact that Danny has been the star player on his team all along, so shouldn't he have earned back a lot of money at this rate anyway?
Well, that's the thing, Joe. Sometimes players do end up losing a lot of their money for very different reasons, whether they've had addiction problems of some kind, or they're just not very good at looking after money.
I'm not denying that that's not the case. I mean, hell, that's sort of what happened with Danny regarding how Ringo stole all his money, but even still, shouldn't he have wised up and then retained a new account of money, which, again, I mean, the betrayal of Ringo, that thing happened, like, midway through Chapter 2, if I recall correctly.
And it's not even resolved properly, I argue.
Yeah,
no, but to be honest, the thing I argue that the worst thing that happens here, and I do wonder if his actually was influenced with what I'm about to say, is that it forces you to pick a side in something that doesn't need to have it, just like at the end of A Way Out, you know, just for creating this tension.
You think I have to pick a side?
Yes, Dwibs, but I do believe they shouldn't have had this to begin with. The idea that the final match has to be done between Alex and Danny's teams. You know, I do believe each of them should have their own respective different final matches with their own separate opponents. You know, maybe a potential turn for Gareth for Alex. You know, and Danny's brother for Danny.
Well,
yeah, you
can suck with one team and. Then the other one would have to do the final.
No, this is what I mean. I do believe since they're all 3 stories, all 3 characters should have deserved their own happy ending. But with this, you're forced to actually make one of them miserable as a result.
Unless, of course, there's a Deus Ex Machina that allows them all to be happy, regardless of them losing. In which case, the tension.
But I don't think that's what happens, to be honest.
It's not how it works.
Oh, I was going to ask Dwibs, so have you seen what happens if you do pick Alex and win?
Yes.
Do you include that in this video, or are you just going to tell us it later?
No, I'll describe it to you after the actual part is over.
Fair enough. So before our final thoughts are being but yeah, Teal just raised up a good point, though. Having this finale be between Danny and Alex feels weird, especially because like I mentioned, there's Michael, along with Terry. That's Terry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, here's the issue though. It does make Kim's story feel like an outlier, especially because technically her story is supposed to take place after this. Yet I don't really think we see either Alex or Danny even in the crowds during her game. So, I mean, sure, yeah.
Hey, by the way. Hey, Terry, remember when you played in the final? Oh, wait, no, you didn't.
Remember, Dwibs, they're nice to each other now because...
So I get the idea, Dwibs, that if you play your cards right, as in lose particular matches with Danny, there's a possibility that Alex faces Terry in this final?
Maybe. I don't know for sure.
That would be neat, but yeah, the problem is that you'd have to...
That's not the ending I got.
Oh, well, yeah.
Sure. No, I was asking if you knew that there was this scenario.
Like I said, that would be neat. However, unfortunately, that means you'd have to practically intentionally tank Danny's campaign for that to happen.
Yeah.
Plus, I can give Alex and every team that he's played in a lesson in complete humility.
Wow.
Or humiliation.
Again, I
can understand it better, Dwibs, if it wasn't for the fact that the team, Real Madrid, has been very, very antagonistic towards Alex for no real reason from the get-go.
Not the team, just one or two of the coaches.
I mean, all this...
Fair enough. I'll accept that.
There was some bits with the team here, but yeah, Alex has his own hardships going on, and the problem is that the game doesn't seem to ever focus on those. It's just that, oh, Alex, you've been a jerk. Blinded by greed and glory despite whatever choices the player made. It's annoying. I just do find it annoying.
It doesn't sound like you guys like the story all that much, even though you said you kind of liked it.
Dwibs, we can like something despite having flaws.
Yeah, no, it's like certain video reviews I've been watching. You say you like it, yet you spend most of it listing the negatives.
Dwibs, there's sort of a reason for that sometimes. Sometimes it's a lot easier to describe what you don't like about a game rather than what you do like. And part of the reason is because when you describe what you don't like, it's so that people know what not to repeat mistake-wise. Conversely, you can only say, oh, this is good or this is good, and go into detail about that just as much because, well, when describing something that's good, you can go into detail about it, but there's not as much incentive to, and inherently speaking, there's not as much need to. You describe what they did well and good here and there. But okay, Dwibs, here's the thing though. One thing you do have to know though, despite your preconceived notion on that, it does not mean that we dislike it even if we tend to speak more negatively about it. It just means that the problems may be more prevalent than what the good stuff is. And that doesn't mean that we do not like it. Like, by that logic, everyone hates Crash 4 when... Come on, you know the general consensus. Crash 4, good game to play, terrible game to complete.
No, I don't actually.
I've seen the same people like trash how it handles its completionism, but at the same time call it one of the best platformers of all time.
Pretty much.
I don't know. To be honest, Tibi, I see it one of either two ways. Either they can't, either they have an issue articulating, which is fine. You know, I'll admit to having that problem as well. Half the time it also comes off as people, to me, it just comes off as someone afraid to say they won't like it under fear of them getting shit bombed by everybody else.
Yeah,
okay, or maybe these people don't live by absolutes, just saying.
Yeah, honestly, Dwibs, that's the problem. You're thinking in absolutes with that. That's way too limited a line of thinking here, which is kind of ironically the problem that you see with these people here. Like, when you have limited thinking like that, of course you're going to think about it like that. No, you have to think about it in multiple different ways. There are so many different shades to it, you can't categorize it in those two here and there. So, let me play.
You know what's another sense of irony?
What?
Reviewing itself is something I've been growing rather mixed on. Like, I still get its purpose, and I still see that it does fulfill it. But other times, I think it just kind of gets twisted about, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's like media in general here. Its purpose is to inform people properly. When it's done right, it's good. Then you got people who do abuse that power.
I think I can figure out where it came from, though, at least to me.
Idea.
Actually, no, wrestling.
Oh, God.
Put it this way, Jova. There's been quite a few times in, from when really popular wrestling reviewers either don't look at something properly, or worse, lie about it. I think I told you guys at one point. There was this guy who said that there was commentary for a match that he felt was really annoying, but the kicker was there was no commentary for that match.
Okay.
So I could only come with either three conclusions. He either watched it on mute and got it mixed up with something else. He was lazy, or worse, he flat out lied.
Okay, dude. So
considering that at times he's been rather, I wouldn't say biased exactly, but more favourable to one wrestling company than another.
So, Dwibs, here's summed up what you just need to know. Yes, reviewers can be biased. However, that does not mean that the concept of reviewing itself is broken here and there. It's just a simple thing to remember. There's always going to be bad outliers. Just never judge something strictly on those bad outliers. Otherwise,
to be the worst kind is when that particular liar has such a huge audience and influence.
Lives, that literally happens with everything. Expecting it, but it will never happen. It's just wishful thinking at this point.
However,
I don't think it should happen at all.
I'll just say,
especially if you're
a lot of other people do too. That doesn't change the fact that it still happens.
Like Dwibs. On concept, I wish a company like EA could, at the very least, wisen up or be properly punished for all their stuff. Well, they have been punished for a lot of their stuff. They haven't been punished for all their stuff, and there are still people who...
Indian countries that have banned that kind of thing.
Yeah, but anyway, regardless of that, there are still people who flock to their sports games despite them having issues all the same too here and there, out of this or that here. That said, I don't let this ruin my concept of sports games in general, just because this particular sports brand has been or whatnot here and there. Like, that's the thing. You should never let the bad always ruin everything for you. Otherwise, let me finish. Otherwise, it becomes practically impossible to enjoy anything. If pretty much you see like all this as just that here and there.
Well, that's what I've been doing recently with those particular wrestling reviewers. Anytime, from now on, ever since I saw that point, anytime that they try and take the moral high ground on something in regards to the subject of wrestling, I'm like, you've got no right to try and take the moral high ground, and you've been lying.
Anyway,
why are they even wrestling reviews in the first place?
Well, again, it's like when you review, it's like I view wrestling as like the most extreme form of theatre you can have. Like, you got the audience, well, before COVID. You've got the audience around you. You've got the stage, which is the ring, as well as the entrance hall. And they review, and I think people review it as such. Yeah, how well the performance, how good the performances are, both on the mic and in the ring. How good the story is, the writing, like in a script, and all the technical elements, like the pyro and how the stage looks and everything.
Anyway, bringing this back to the topic of the reviews at hand here about me and Tears' complaint. Well, our complaints in general with this game here, Dwibs. So here's the thing. When you talk about what you do like in something, you're also prominent to talk about stuff you don't like about it. Let me put it like this. When something's good, you pretty much state, yeah, they did it good. However, when a problem is recurring, well, you do tend to point out that issue more so here and there.
Well,
hold on, let me finish. Because of that, it may sound like people are talking more about the problems, and maybe that is the case because the problem is sadly more prevalent than what is good here and there. Or again, like, when you state what it does right, that's good, they got it nailed. The thing is that with problems, they can come in many different shapes or variants of it too here and there. Like we mentioned, the herky-jerk writing of this one has unfortunately come in many different shapes and sizes here and there.
Well,
from Kim getting a somewhat downgraded role here and there, sadly, to, again, Danny's voice here just being piled on for the sake of drama. And again, the conflict with Alex feeling artificial when it comes to friends and family, and ignoring the actual conflict between him and his team here and there. It just doesn't feel right.
from what I understand of at least of you guys, if something, the most important thing in either a story mode of something or an RPG in general is the story, and since you guys haven't really been liking it, I'd have thought you wouldn't have liked this product overall.
Well, okay, I'm gonna be honest, Dwibs. Journey is really the only thing that's interested me in FIFA these past 2 years, because
pretty much the same.
Look, like I've said, EA sports games are kind of shoddy. Like, let's be honest, the main...
the same for me as well.
The main reason they sell well... Hold on.
Not made by 2K.
Let me put it this. The main reason that they sell well is due to lack of proper good competition here and there. I assure you, if a company could raise to some good standards of competition, EA would finally have to step their game back up, or sales would go down here and there. Like, so...
Well, well, the competition's been Konami.
And yeah, that pretty much says itself in there. But that is the thing, Dwibs. Yeah, look, I won't lie to you. I like the Journey, not really a fan of FIFA. Especially after that BS that EA pulled with the Nintendo Switch versions, trying to literally take an outdated version and advertise it as the new version. The absolute scumbags.
I mean, on the box they say it's just...
Also, Dwibs, I can speak for the others, Dwibs, but as for me, with these particular stories, I have my standards lowered in general. So even if I have something that I may not like, about them, it's not like it's gonna ruin my experience or anything.
Let me put it like this, Dwibs. At the very least, we were hoping for something as good as, well, the Journey 18. Well, FIFA 18's the Journey, which was...
Wait. There's been 16 Journey games that we've missed.
Season 2.
Yeah.
I guess that's what he meant.
Yeah, okay, FIFA 18's the Journey or whatever. Like, okay, that one was an overall improvement over the first season of the Journey here and there, in so many different ways. And I did like that they were adding in additional playable characters as well. I was excited
There's been plenty of story beats throughout this trilogy that I've mocked. Gareth being an evil mastermind at the age of 10.
Your point being...
Well, yeah, it's like I'm not above mocking bits of the story. Again, that's one of my in terms of storytelling in video gaming. Evil kid mastermind Gareth Walker.
Oh,
has been one of the ones that's been sticking in my mind for all the wrong reasons for years.
Oh, that's exactly the thing, Dwibs. You yourself pretty much just proved it. Even if we aren't speaking that positively of features here, that doesn't mean we don't like it. It just means that maybe the problems are more prevalent for the time being, or maybe we've already felt that we said our good deal about what's good about it. I will say this though, like Tio suggested though, Gareth would have been a much more interesting final boss for Alex's campaign, and I feel like it would have been better if Terry was the final boss of Danny's campaign, because... Yeah, because again, I'm sorry, it feels like he just immediately becomes a good guy out of nowhere in the middle of Danny's campaign, which just leads us to this, which, I'm sorry, as a final confrontation does not feel as fulfilling because of their circumstances here and there.
Also, I would say this is an unrealistic scoreline, but considering Barcelona got thrashed 8-2 not too long ago at the time of this recording, not so unrealistic. Yeah, sorry, Alex. I know this series started off being about you, but you've been acting like a bit of a knob throughout this game, so I decided to have Daddy get the final trophy at the end.
And I'm still not buying it because the writing didn't suffice that well, but what else? But look, they made up just fine. Yeah, that's another thing. Like,
yeah, one thing that I understand, for example, despite not liking these kind of choice lives, I can perfectly understand that there's actually no malice between these two. Even if the dialogue at the end might seem, super dramatic and everything, I can still understand that these two are still friends. So this is not going to break their friendship or anything. It's just they actually get into the game. And that I can understand.
Which is sort of a bit of an issue I have here. Like, well, for all the tension they were building up between Danny and Alex, it feels like the two just resolved it easily. Like, how Danny had been like, oh, you've been a terrible friend, but It's okay, I guess it was resolved by playing video games or whatnot.
One thing I
playing hashtag FIFA.
One thing I do love is that we don't exactly end with the commentary team that we hey, that's kind of a parallel with us. The series started off with a different commentating team, both in the game and with us. Remember, we had Peter at the first game, and it ends with a completely different team at the end.
Well, not super completely, but still, sure.
All we had to do was, what would we have done to make it complete? Replace me and Joven, Deji, and
Ballinards.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is
Out of all of them,
Canadian.
only one of them is the most. Only one of them actually is more into football. So here we are. Here's the most unrealistic thing in the game: Cardiff City Champions League winners. Although again, Shiri, it's like in real life. Since Cardiff technically came into this way through the English league system, they haven't won this trophy for Wales. They've won it for England.
No, we have.
No, yeah.
Hey, it's on our side of the fence.
No, sorry, that's
You
how
can come and get it if you want it,
administration works. You came up through the English league, so you won it for England.
No, we won it for Wales in spite of England.
Much to Dwibs' chagrin,
We
I
do.
guess.
The rest of the UK does everything it can in spite of the English.
Yeah, like, honestly, it feels like most of them hate being reminded they share the same continent as England these
Also,
days.
stop showing your crotches.
Is this meant to be an insult to the other team? Ha, you lost, now you have to look at my crotch.
Maybe my Braveheart comparison was
Scotland's
wrong.
entire national anthem can be amounted to "fuck England."
Learn how to time your tackles better, or you'll cause the team too many problems. It's the last game. It's a bit late to be telling me that, isn't it?
Okay, so let's see the final cutscene, I guess.
So is this the point where the aliens arrive?
Lee Williams, best in Europe, of course. Hashtag it's coming home. And so our final match ever in the journey ends Real Madrid 0, Cardiff City 11.
Yeah,
Jesus
whatever.
Christ.
I mean, honestly,
And,
there's
so,
a...
and this also
Actually,
proves another lesson.
That's a question, but
another lesson, in my opinion.
That's a question that I didn't ask.
I was going to get to the point I was going to make. No matter, sometimes the story can start off about you, and it just wildly reams off into being about somebody else.
I mean, that was
That's
kind
what
of...
happens.
I mean,
Like
that was,
actual TV shows at times.
I mean, that was kind of the point of this game in general, that we'd be focusing
like
on
Sucker
more than
Punch.
just Alex. Oh, yeah, like
I
Sucker
find it
Punch.
goes nice with a classic sport.
Also, that's a question that I didn't ask, Dwibs. Is it possible for having these person versus person team, as in you are holding the one controller and like say one of your friends the other, and the respective team are basically, it's not player versus AI but player versus player?
Well, I mean, you have been able to do that since the second.
No, that's what I question is. Can this final match be done in that kind of way?
I'm not sure. Oh, by the way, I can tell you this now. Actually, if you played as Alex in this scene, and whether you win or lose, Alex can get the final choice on whether to stay with his family or decide to stay with
Beatrice
and be part of a shitty brand.
Oh, shoot. That's right. Honestly, you know what I feel like they should have done? Just let you play this as either Danny or Alex.
Oh,
and
you could do career mode and import Alex or Danny.
That's nice. But, okay, you know what I feel like they should have done? Just let you play Alex or Danny's as respective own final chapters, and then you pretty much just see the different endings or whatnot here and there, as opposed to, I guess, simultaneously having them. What?
Also, the chapter was called Eclipse.
Why are we rewinding?
It's rewind time.
Sorry, I lent
No!
on. Sorry, I lent on the rewind button.
You're not undoing this ending, are you?
What?
No.
He used the time stone.
Yeah, I was Thanos all along. There's your alien invasion.
I'll take it.
Oh,
Okay, so we flash back to 2018 Christmas.
why?
Not exactly snowy.
So we can, yeah, so we could do this. We could be one team of the 3 playable characters versus the side characters of some of the other games.
Why are we flashing back in time?
So we can have a finale involving our 3 mates playing with each other, because you can't do that in a real football match.
Why not flash
This
forward,
feels
though?
weird.
Yeah, no, I was kind of taken aback by this too. I was like, hang on, I've been watching videos of this on YouTube to get an idea of what would happen if I picked an alternate option. I don't remember this happening.
I'm guessing this happens regardless of what you choose during Alex's run.
Yeah, if it happens with no matter who you.
I get the idea. Maybe this happens if you manage to, complete all chapters without having to skip segments.
Snap! I just realized the problem though. Because you chose Danny's ending, that means that we don't really get to see any resolution between Alex and his agents now.
Well, to be honest, I didn't really care much for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we even care?
Well, okay.
I get what Joe was saying is that we need the satisfaction of Alex telling her to fuck off.
Like,
well, I mean, I did describe to you guys what happened.
Well, okay.
Sure.
Well, that's the issue with the game, though. It's like, well, again, why not just let you play this twice between Danny or Alex, as opposed to having you choose between the two? Now, granted, maybe you could have just done that for the playthrough or whatnot, but still,
not just that. I get the idea. I get the idea behind it to give more replayability value, I guess, to see the different outcome. But
and again,
I didn't do that.
Again,
no, I mean not for the purpose of his recording Dwibs, but purpose of someone actually spent money to play this game.
And again, here's the issue. Story-wise, it leaves the story feeling incomplete from Alex's perspective here and there, because, again, okay, regardless of whether or not he was going to tell his agents to screw off, we don't know what happened with him. Like, does he care for his family, according to the story, mind you, because it wasn't really earned, but, I mean, so did he fall apart from his family or whatnot?
Yeah, final cutscene.
Ow.
Hey guys,
that hurts.
I want to show you a wicked video I found.
Okay, let's go.
So the final cutscene is literally something that takes place before the actual story of this game began.
This is very Gainax.
We're in the middle of it, actually.
Football.
And Dad and his dad get to
reunite,
share a scene together.
Yeah.
I guess that's
sure. It was only 5 seconds, but you get now. Hey, you gave me your old ball. I get to give you this modern one.
Not bad for old timers, are they? I could have shown him.
Danny?
I bet. Still got it.
And I guess that's the end. Huh.
Okay, Alex does make a cameo in the first Volta story mode, but I'm not doing this.
So what is his
cameo? Boy!
So what does his cameo amount to?
Hi, I'm in the game. Now, since the journey as a whole left some fates hanging...
Quite a lot.
I figured I'd fill in the gaps.
Ah, Trials and Tribulations' credits theme.
Here we go. Tremblay's attitude caught up with her after the tournament, and she never played for the Canadian team again. She's now at the same juice place that failed American player ended up at.
This looks like the ending to like a documentary.
Coach Butler eventually retired from football coaching and took up a new career, running a successful soothing tea-making company.
Okay.
Harold continued his career as a football scout, helping new players and teaching them the ways of the game. He's still in contact with Kim, helping with her football development and her coursework. His father, Jim, eventually settled into a luxurious retirement. He occasionally welcomed visitors to interview him about his career and his perspective on the modern Dane compared to his heyday. Alex's friends eventually parted ways to new clubs, but still keep in touch, provided they weren't Champions League opponents. B eventually moved on from Alex and took on new players to mold into brands. Most of them didn't catch on due to crappy logos.
Crap, yeah, we never did figure out what became of that.
Michael never really regained his former place as an agent, but still pressed on with Danny being his only client. He eventually retired from football agency and went into banking.
No, he's gonna lose so much money!
Catherine became a successful graphic designer, forging a career just as impactful in her industry as her son. She eventually bought out B's company, but retained her services as a CEO.
Okay, now that's a good ending.
After taking a brief hiatus, Dino returned to football management, eventually becoming head coach of the Italian football team. While no trophy success has manifested yet, the footballing community adored their style of play. Gareth's ego ultimately cost him big, and he washed out of professional football, consigned to non-league obscurity. He had to take a job at McMillan's Fish and Chips, having to constantly hear Daddy's voice as a reminder of how shit a friend he was. Ringo eventually went to prison for fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. By the time he was released, the only job he could get was McMillan's. Kim continued her rise up the footballing table while taking a college course in physiotherapy. She plans to become a physio at the end of her playing days to help avoid situations like her dad ended up in. Danny soon played his way back into the black and eventually bought McMillan's Fish and Chips. It became a modest success in England and Wales, with his terrible acting in the adverts becoming an endearing marketing phenomenon. And as for Alex, well, of course he won the Champions League the next season, breaking a new record every match, writing a new chapter in the journey.
Okay, you know, Dwibs, I hate to say it, you officially wrote a better ending than the actual writers of this game did for the journey.
So, yeah, basically I've turned working at McMillan's Fish and Chips into being purgatory.
Still no alien invasion, but 0 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Basically I figured, since people related to Danny and Alex have been rather shitty people, I figured I'd give them a fate worse than alien invasion, having to work at a fish and chip shop and hearing Danny's voice, the people that they either betrayed or mocked mercilessly. Just to remind them how shitty they were. Yeah, hey, the guy who the worst thing he did was mock you, he's got a better career than you. How about you're stuck here?
Honestly, Dwibs, yeah, you pretty much actually did make a legit good ending to the trilogy there. Like, no joke.
The favorite one I made up was for Gareth.
Of course. Well, I also prefer. I also very like Ringo's.
Yeah.
Going to prison for free cat.
And then he's forced to work at Macmillan. Why not?
yeah. Again, like Gareth, he has to hear Daddy's voice on being reminded. Oh, I really was a crap friend to Daddy, wasn't I?
All right.
What about Terry's,
I guess.
Sorry.
He mentioned it. I think, yeah, he did mention it.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a couple I forgot to mention, actually.
Ah, there you go.
No, I think Terry was showcased, but whatever.
No, Terry wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Oh. Anyway,
Terry won a contract with Danny Williams and got to using his construction empire connections, he got to build the headquarters for McMillan's Fish and Chips.
Nice. So,
it's a more profitable job than just working there on the counter.
So who should go first?
Can I go first? Since
go ahead.
Sure, actually. I mean, I'll give my thoughts on the series over.
Okay.
Basically, I mean, overall, I do think this series had a few good shining moments, like when Alex grew a pair and fired his agent in the second game for acting like a complete selfish shithead.
Yeah.
Although he did redeem himself a little bit in my eyes in this game with Danny, as he did seem to learn from that experience and actually look out for Danny's interests, especially when it turned out that Ringo was being Ringo.
Yeah.
There was also Danny's journey from being a cocky upstart to becoming a more mature player, thus earning the respect of his peers.
Oh,
that and also overcoming the shit Ringo did to him.
do tell me, Dwibs, what is Danny's reaction if he does lose the final?
Better man won. Shrug.
Oh, so he, I guess, lightens up after that heavy lead up and everything. Jesus.
From what I remember, anyway. The music across these games has been okay. I mean, considering the first game was done by one half of the Noisy duo, I'm surprised that my ears didn't explode. The second game music was fine, and the music here was also fine. I mean, it fits, even though it is kind of a bit overly dramatic for a football story. Imagine if yeah, I'm surprised it didn't try and do like that special kind of music that changes depending on the situation for while you're playing a match. Like if you're winning by a huge margin, the music just stops because it knows what's going to happen at this point. Or if you're losing, it gets really tense, and can you fight back to win? But we didn't get that. I mean, then again, that's rarely seen in. And yeah, the acting has been generally pretty good, except from Ronaldo in the last game. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like he's almost as bad as Gordon Ramsay when trying to play himself. I'm not kidding. But I mean, overall, the storytelling here did get better as it went along. I mean, the first game was just really generic, 0 to hero. The second game got a bit more complex about it. And the third game also got a bit more complex about it, although some were handled better than others. Really, my favourite one out of all of these, Danny, since Kim didn't really have much didn't have much going on in her story. Alex kind of acting like a bit of a twat. And Danny's was the one I gravitated to by default. Mainly because his story didn't have the same problems I felt the other two did. And so overall, for an attempt to inject story into a gaming series in which you wouldn't expected the story mode to happen, I feel it did a good job. It's a shame that they had to sacrifice this in favor of, okay, not sacrifice exactly, more like downscale so they could implement Volta mode. I mean, Volta mode is fun, so I guess it's not too big a sacrifice. I still want that referee mode though.
You'll get it in a mini game, and you'll like it.
Or if it's a bit too complex, make a separate game for it. I mean, why not? They've done it before. So yeah, overall the journey is fine. It's not the best story I've seen in regards to sports media. It's not the worst. So there's that. So yeah, who's next?
I'll go next. Yeah, I'll sort of touch base on my feelings as the journey as a whole, but I'll be focusing mainly on the third game here. To recap, with the first journey, it had a lot of flaws here and there, but I won't deny I was legit enticed to the point where Alex Hunter did become a character I could say I was endeared to at least, and yeah, Gareth was definitely the weakest link of that with how his villainy kind of comes out of nowhere. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. He definitely becomes more of a jerk over the course of it, but it wasn't as done as well as it could have been. Also, it really didn't feel like a lot of the gameplay or choices really mattered, sadly enough, in that one. But it showed a promise here. Thankfully, that is what FIFA 18's The Journey did and then some here. It felt more like the choices actually did matter there, not completely still, but stuff felt like it started to get fleshed out. The story is somewhat more complex here and there, and you could actually get some much more changing details, like Alex finally nutting up and firing Michael. Also, them saving his dad from being just your typical, terrible stepfather who wanted to, terrible birth father who wanted to mooch off of his son's favor, actually legit being a good guy who did legit want to help his son with his career. And implying that his mother wasn't all that innocent when it turned out that she hid the fact from him that he had a sister that he didn't know about for the good chunk of his life here and there. There was some weird drama here and there that didn't feel like it went anywhere. Like, seriously, they constantly love to seem to hint at Jim's death, but nope, that had never happened. But overall, FIFA 18's The Journey was a nice improvement, and I was very excited at the idea of playing as not one, but this time 3 main characters with campaigns that will run side by side with each other. So, how does it all line up here? Well, I hate to say it, it feels like a mess, and one that doesn't properly close out things that the journey has been building up to. Now, in regards to Alex, you could argue that technically he has the favor that his story was kind of told at this point, but that doesn't mean you can't do more of him. Like, look at a character like Phoenix Wright. Technically, his story has been told with the first 3 games, but as stuff like Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice have shown, you can still do more with him, even if he's supposedly at the top of everything. And I feel that the same applies to Alex Hunter here and there. Like, okay, I'll say this right now. The game does start off with a lot of promise here. You know, you play as Jim Hunter, and then, you know, with the way that the characters' campaigns each start off, you know, having them first, group up here and there at this one location, then go their own separate ways, and little by little, choices you make seem to influence certain things here and there. It seems to work out pretty well. I was enjoying it. Then, I think I'd say where some of the problems were starting to really show was definitely Chapter 2 of each playthrough. Like, Chapter 2 has some weird pacing, first of all, and like I said, each one has their own issues here and there. The problem with Kim's campaign definitely was the pacing here and there. And not only just in the sense that, like, her timeline literally jumps way ahead, like, jumps over 2/3 of the timeline here and there, but also how certain things that are brought up in her campaign are only resolved in other people's campaigns, even though she's present for those scenes, so why not just show how that was resolved? It feels weird and like we're getting an incomplete picture. And I get it, we technically are free campaigns and whatnot. The problem is this, though. Apparently, if you complete a certain campaign and then go forward with that campaign enough, the game will automatically push through the other stories, so that means that you can potentially miss out on those story details as well, too, here and there. But like I said, Kim's campaign's problem is mainly the pacing. Danny's campaign's problem is the fact that, at first it feels mainly like a retread of stuff we've seen before. Technically the underdog. Except we kind of already had that with Alex. But okay, maybe it can be a bit different with Danny here and there. Well, then here comes the other issue here. In Danny's campaign, it feels like problems are either handled way too easily, like, hey, suddenly Terry's nice because he beat him enough, I guess, and, apparently if he lost, he'd be A-okay despite all that buildup with him suggesting that Alex has been a terrible friend here and there. And then there's parts where the issues just aren't addressed at all, like, seriously. Ringo! The thing with Ringo just got dropped, and it's not even said if Danny did actually manage to make his money back or whatnot. Michael just drops off the plot after that scene, regardless it seems, and no, I'm not counting him showing up at the game, that's just stuff here and there, but yeah, he pretty much drops off the plot here and there, and, nothing more. And then you got Alex's campaign, which I feel is a combination of those two issues with its own issues here and there. The unique issue being that, a lot of the conflicts with Alex feel artificial here and there. Like, they suggest, he's becoming a terrible person or whatnot. None of the choices Dwibs made really reflect that, so it feels like any inkling that the game has of that is something that's forced. And it unfortunately makes the final chapter between him and Danny feel emotionally manipulative, where, oh, well, of course Alex should lose to teach him a lesson in humility or whatnot, and Danny deserves to win because he's had it all terrible, even though the game ignores that Alex has apparently had his own run-ins with the management of Real Madrid, which, yeah, that too just gets dropped out of nowhere as well. Like, heck, even any conflict of Kim supposedly being kicked from the women's soccer team because she's talking about all the stuff during the World Cup, that's pretty much just dropped and never really becomes a problem in the end either here and there. Like, it feels like the game wants to get us excited, but then doesn't think of how to give the proper payoff here and there. And mind you, I did come in wanting to like this one, and I'll say this. Overall, I still did get entertainment value from the story here and there, but that does not mean that the story is free of problems, and in some ways, I might have to consider this the weakest of the Journey trilogy. Like, I think Shuri mentioned it well here. It feels like they're cramming way too much into this game, to the point where nothing does feel like it gets a proper conclusion. Even with the supposed happy endings here, like Tio pointed out, because you play one side, you don't get to see the good end for the other. And yeah, the heck was that ending here? The ending is actually in the middle of the timeline as opposed to moving forward. Like, we don't get to see what Kim decided to do. We don't get to see how Alex decided whether or not he wants to choose between friends and family. And yeah, I get that we probably would have gotten that if we chose to play as him. But still, in this playthrough, as it is, you don't get to see that. And even with Danny's happy ending, like I said, we don't get to see if he managed to win back the money. We don't even get to see him call off Ringo, and Ringo has the gall to try and cheer Danny on in that Twitter feed. We don't even get the option to tell him off in it. He's just, oh, I know you're not talking to him. Well, why do you think he's not talking to you? You practically nearly ruined his life here. And
you know what this reminds me, Jova?
Yeah?
The idea of having technically no ending, but then jumping to a previous point in time to showcase how these people have been, happy with each other. The ending of a slasher movie, where all the characters are dead and we jump one last time to see how life was good for them before.
Oh my god, you're right.
So you know what? Maybe Alien Invasion.
Maybe this should have been a slasher movie.
Or maybe you're right about the Alien Invasion. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you get down to it, at the end of this one, some of the players' lives could be really screwed up. Like, for all we know, Kim made a decision that ruined her career, or Alex never recovered, or Danny never recovered. Like, sure, he won, but he didn't get it. Like I said, Dwibs legit wrote a better ending for this trilogy than the writers did. It's satisfying, and it pretty much ties things up. Like you should do at the end of a trilogy here and there. I just don't get it. Like, you made... And here's the thing. They made a big deal about this one. So you better bring your A game with the payoff here. Sadly, it doesn't. Mind you, that doesn't mean that I hate this particular installment of the Journey. I still found stuff to enjoy. It's just that it's such a step down that I might even see it as a step down from the first Journey. It's at the very least equal with it in terms of quality overall. And, obviously we do have to go in with lowered expectations with a story mode of this caliber. Which is a shame because it really did feel like they were picking stuff up with the second one. I think that's my main disappointment here. Whereas the second installment felt like such a step up, this feels like such a massive step down, and it had so much potential to it. That being said, I will still say this, I do not regret commentating on the Journey trilogy. It was definitely something that I got more enjoyment out of it than I expected when it was first announced at that fateful E3 day of EA's here and there. So EA, can you try and innovate more, is all I ask. And I know the answer will probably be no.
It's more no, actually, Jova. The proper answer will be give me money.
Yeah, pretty much. Alright, who's next?
Can I go next, please? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to add. Like, Jova pretty much covered everything to do with the endings, although I did appreciate Dwibs, quote-unquote, wrapping each loose thread up.
I mean, I might as well consider those canon now.
Yeah. Hey, we'll make our own canon.
Yes.
I I'm probably, honestly, because of the type of score it is, I'm probably not going to remember it. But in context, going through this, the music was actually a huge part of the enjoyment, just because of how
try hard
dramatic it is.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely like that.
That's one thing that I keep hearing, even from scores that I may not agree with. Apparently, everyone who knows anything about Hans Zimmer, they keep saying that he takes his works very seriously, no matter what he's doing. So
yeah,
I guess
I get that. I see that here. I also this is talking about like the journey as a whole. This is a lot more. I'm pretty sure I said this back at the end of part one. The journey part one.
Yes,
anyway.
yes.
This is a lot more story than I expected for a game like this that has a story tacked on the side, and that's not really saying that the bar is that low. Like I actually had there was a lot of genuine enjoyment here.
Yeah.
It was more like pleasantly surprised with quite a few nitpicks. But yes, Jova?
Oh, were you talking about the trilogy as a whole?
Yeah, the trilogy as a whole. I thought you were about to say something.
No, I was just clarifying on the matter. I was wondering.
The journey as a trilogy itself, but this last one, we talked about this last part, I believe. This is the kind of thing that should have been more than 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like Jova said, it seems like they just crammed a lot in. And,
I just really don't get the obsession with stuff having to be a trilogy when people come to limiting stuff. Like
it sounds epic, I guess.
Like, it has been the status quo for a very, very long time, even before movies existed. 3 is a number that's very appealing to people in general. I get the idea that, simply put, we might have reached a point in media where, due to how people can, experience more lengthy stuff that they can actually endure, stuff that prolongates a lot, we can actually break that convention, and make a series last longer than 3 titles. It has already happened in the past with stuff like, say, some book series, for example, and some movie series like slasher movies that, like I mentioned, run into that ground, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and so on. So there should be probably a more incentive into breaking that kind of convention, breaking out of trilogy more often than it already is, because it's not like no one is doing it, but there are series like this one where the product get damaged because they think it has to be confined to a trilogy.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be better if I don't know who's responsible, like executives or creators in general. It's like, don't limit yourself like that. It's not good. You end up with this.
Or Rise of Skywalker.
Like this wasn't terrible by any means. It was, again, I genuinely enjoyed a lot of this. Would have been nice if it was fleshed out more with future installments, but we know we're not getting that, so it is what it is. This was the journey, and I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll finish up. The series is okay. Let me start just with this title instead of an mention for the series as a whole. This final title, like I mentioned, feels inexperienced in how it's made. You can definitely see how these writers had not much under their belts, and yet they were probably kind of pressured into finishing things up on things they had built, and so they had to essentially cram 3 separate story arcs into one narrative and trying to tie them together. And that's the thing. For coming up with new stuff, because keep in mind, some of these characters had their story arcs concluded. You can potentially also see Danny having his arc concluded by the end of the second game.
Yeah.
But you have to pull his career, out of nowhere. So I get the idea. Probably this game should have been just about Alex and Kim, just them two. That in a sense, but I think Danny was a mistake. I argue his story is probably the more interesting of a bunch to me, But as a result, a lot of characters feel left behind. That's not to mention the absent, Dino and Garrett. Those I can imagine it was because of external factor. But stuff in the plot, characters in the plot gets basically just abandoned, like Alex and Kim's father, or Jim, the grandpa, Michael, for example. Yeah. All characters that maybe share one scene or another, but then don't show up anymore.
Don't forget the game constantly teasing us with Jim's death.
Okay, that's more probably a joke that they kind of make, but the games do legitimately try to cross that line a bit, but not as much as probably we made it appear to. No, but as a result, the story kind of suffered for it, and you get to see these characters only interact either with themselves or with one or two new additions that don't really add much to it, which kind of reminds me of something else. A shame that Shiri had to BRB, but it reminds me instead of 13 Reasons Why, where, not in a sense of this is trashily written, but more what I just said, the fact that some characters, veteran, do not get their time to shine for one reason or another, and as a result of the one we are focusing with had to interact with newcomers that have not much baggage under their belt, and they're not enough to bring the spice enough to conclude, the story. I get the idea. Games like Gears of War 3 or Sly 3 had the right idea in mind of including veterans from the previous games and not too much newcomers, so they could instead, focus on cementing what they already have in order to have everything tied in a bow. Here instead, unfortunately, tries to amp things up a bit too much, and the game suffers as a result of that. But also what I mentioned about the ending, that was a bit forced. I complained about this also in A Way Out, even though that game was a bit more justified, as Pedro also told. I may not agree with it 100%, but I can see where the game was coming from. In here, the reasoning behind this doesn't feel as strong, in my opinion. Like I said, it probably would have felt more satisfying if each campaign had their own final boss, and maybe, just maybe, at the very end, our characters have a match against each other, but in a more friendly kind of way, instead of having this big final confrontation, having to compete for the Champions League.
And again, after the big confrontation, it just peters out with, good man won, good man won.
That's also not to mention the pretty much absent conclusion or Gainax-esque type of ending that doesn't really provide much satisfaction. Much like Jova said, Dwibs' headcanon is infinitely more better because it does exactly what I said. It picks up all the important characters and gives them a conclusion, even no matter how far-fetched it may be, it is a conclusion. I get the idea that there's a current of thinking that I actually, enjoy in some particular products where a story can potentially have no real ending, in order to symbolize a bit of realism, and said that, characters do not just have their lives over when a story ends, their life continues on. But I don't believe this type of end screen narration said, and where are they now, is the night compromise for this kind of situation. You're technically saying what characters did for the rest of their lives without having to say, oh, they did nothing else after the events of the game, and that's it. This is what Dwibs said. What Dwibs did was legitimately what the people in charge should have been, and this connects to what I said at the beginning. It really showcased the fact that the team behind this was having consultation from people like for BioWare from the choices. And keep in mind, I can see where the choices do matter a bit, come from and are well implemented. But these people were still inexperienced at their core, and it kind of showcased the better solution for this would have been for EA to actually hire an experienced writer that knows about a potential about multi-choice story.
Especially if they wanted this one to close out the whole trilogy,
But yeah, that's pretty much it in regards to the story. I believe my favorite season is the second one from FIFA 18. because I do believe it amps up the story, it does what they said, it builds up the story, introduces a bit to the character, but there's still enough to contribute and amps up what was previously showcased. But the package as a whole has been enjoyable to me. In fact, I'm kind of gonna miss it. The fact that we're not continuing the Alex story, even if we've said that he shows up as a cameo. Keep in mind, though, it's probably cannot be potentially over. Like I said, I get the idea that Alex has become the officially EA mascot character for FIFA, which is fine by me. So who knows? Maybe in the future we'll see another type of journey, maybe with Alex's son, for all we know.
I still want. I want basically a footballing version of Space Jam.
Yeah, still, that's a good point. Still, though, we're at the end of the day, there was no alien invasion, and that's terrible. Unfortunately, I had to give a thumbs down. Don't recommend this one. There's a good reason TV tropes and no one else talks about it.
Yeah, don't you see, guys? The subtitle of this one, The Journey Champions.
Oh, there's subtitles for these.
Not just that, Joe, but one thing that I forgot to mention.
This one,
when
turns out actually that this title is actually incomplete. It's called The Journey Champions of Earth.
Not just that, Jova. One thing that I didn't mention when it happened, but I probably should have, is that if you didn't notice, Chapter 4's title, here's the film for subtlety, was called Eclipse.
Oh
Jesus
my God.
Christ.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, like Shira mentioned, the score was out there. Again, Hans Zimmer and the other guy took themselves seriously, but overall I enjoyed it. I get the idea we haven't experienced it 100% because of copyright reason. But honestly, for what we have seen, it has been pretty fun, pretty enjoyable. It has that kind of vibe given to, say, the South Park product, where the score takes itself way too seriously, but it works out because of the juxtaposition. And that connects also to my final saying in general. Like I mentioned multiple times, I had my standards low for this kind of series, specifically because I get the idea, much like most of sport stories, this type of telling tend to be full of cliches and not bringing too much innovative to the table. Not necessarily being a bad thing, it's just on how you want to approach it. You're not expecting Shakespeare out of this one, It's just like Alex has remarked multiple times, he just wants to play fucking football, slash soccer. So again, even if I think this ending has been a bit weak, in how Peak is presented, I think I like the packages, presented as a whole, and I can hope and wish we will see more of it in the future. But as it is now, this is our goodbye to Alex, Danny, Kim, and all the cheerful people that died in the alien invasion.
Like, I will give the journey this. When we first heard about the journey, I was not expecting that I would actually be sad that it's over, but here we are.
And so brings our journey to an end. We hope you enjoyed the journey we went along the way, and we apologize for the disappointment that the promised alien invasion
did not happen.
At the end of Chapter 2 never happened.
Alas.
All right.
Join us next time in the future, maybe for another story in a sports game.
Maybe Joe will get to see what the NFL version looks like. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Well, anyway, we will see you next time.
See ya.